What's happening, everybody? Happy Monday to you. At least the day I'm recording this episode, it's Monday. Maybe you're listening to this a week from now, 3 days from now. Either way, I'm glad that you tuned in. This is a little bit different of a format for Beyond the Story. Typically, I'm interviewing other people, getting their perspective and their story. Today, I want to mix things up a little bit. And I want to give you my perspective and what I've come up with based on reading the great Mel Robbins' The Let Them Theory. Now, I must admit a few things. Number one, I am a gigantic Mel Robbins fan. However, I was not interested in reading this book at all. Because, like most people, or maybe even you if you're listening to this, think, how hard is it to just let people do whatever it is that they want to do? And I asked myself that same question. But boy, oh boy, are we wrong more times than we are right. Especially when it comes to things like this, because it's one of those things where you go, you think you know, but you have no idea. That was some show in the 90s, I remember. Maybe it was on MTV. You think you know. Oh, Beyond the Story or Behind the Story or VH1, that's what it was. You think you know, but you have no idea. So, from the strong advice and nudge from my girlfriend to read this book, because she said she read it and it really changed her perspective as to how to make your own personal life just that much easier by not getting caught up on what other people actually do. So I said, you know what? It's not going to hurt. Might as well give it a shot, see what shows up for me. So that's exactly what I did. Did the Audible book because I think that Mel Robbins is very animated in her storytelling. And number one. Number two, reading a physical book, while I can do it, and I do it, is a little bit challenging because I don't do it as long as I'd like to. So I dove into the audiobook, decided that we're going to read this as long as it takes us to read this. Thankfully, I like to read on my days off. On my daily walks and days off. And I'd read. I usually walk for about 45 minutes a day before hitting the gym or doing some kind of physical activity. And I got through it. And here's my biggest takeaway that at least I've come up with thus far. Could be different for you. I hope that it is. But the biggest thing that I learned from reading the book, it's a very long book. To get the Audible, it doesn't seem as long. But the biggest thing that landed for me is what she actually teaches in addition to the Let Them theory, which is when people are doing things that you don't agree with or you don't like, or they annoy you or they drive you crazy or all of the above, let them. And the next step after that is let you. Now, that took a minute to unpack. Let them, let me, let you. Who's on first? What's on second? But what I realized is that when you let them, you actually let yourself. You let yourself be free from the emotional attachment to wanting it your way. You set yourself free and create some bandwidth around what is productive to think about and to focus on. And it's not necessarily about giving people permission to just be careless in general. I think that we're all careless at times. And to be faulted for that, well, would make us a shining example of a hypocrite. But it's giving yourself permission to not care so damn much about what other people are actually doing, because another big news flash I got was that people are there's one thing about people gonna be peopling. And I don't think that they're gonna stop doing that anytime soon, because it's probably been happening since the inception of time. It's part of our human design. We're all unique. We're all different. Thank God. Could you imagine if we weren't? How weird that would be. Here's what the theory of let them really means. And here's what I've tried to wrap my head around. The core idea is when people show you exactly who they are, let them. You can believe them. Maya Angelou says when people show you who they are the first time, believe them. You can believe them, but you can also let them at the same time. And see, that's the rub. That's the rub. But you don't know. Or if they could just, usually it's, if they could just do it my way. Imagine that. Imagine the world living its life and people changing because other people want them to change, because that's what other people think that they should do. It's almost like somebody telling you what to do with your life. Not a lot of people like the idea of that happening. I know I don't. I know a lot of people close to me don't. When people choose to not show up, whether it's physically show up, emotionally show up as a friend, spouse, coworker, letting them lets us. What does it let us do, Sebastian? It gives us the freedom and the choice to let people do whatever they're going to do. It gives us individually and personally the opportunity to focus on something so much more productive, so much more important. If you wrote down 10 things that you don't agree about with your friends, family, people who are close to you right now, and then I ask you to come up with 25 other productive things you could be thinking about, forward-thinking things that you could be thinking about, you could come up with 25, if not more. So I literally just shared this with my girlfriend this morning. The great Tony Robbins says that when what's wrong is always available, so is what is right. It's almost like when we want people to do something the way that we want them to, it's almost as if, well, maybe it is, pushing ourselves aside a little bit. What do we really want? Because it's often said that what we choose to say or the opinions we have about others is oftentimes what is landing for us. So I don't know what you're up against right now, or the people that are in your life, or who's driving you crazy, or maybe it's your spouse or relative. I mean, because I know family never, ever triggers us, right? Our spouse, our partner, friends, that never happens, right? Most likely, yes, it does. And more frequently than we'd like to care to even admit. But today I want to invite everybody, as I'm inviting myself, I'm talking to myself. This episode is for me. It's very much a selfish episode because I'm forcing myself to talk about what I was able to extract from the book. And every single day, I get the opportunity to put this into play. Every day. Somebody cuts you off, let them. Spouse does something you don't agree with, let them. Somebody doesn't call you back, you don't get invited somewhere. All the things that Mel talks about in the book. She talks about them because she's experienced them. Up until writing the book and discovering the let them theory, she was a very miserable individual because of how she lived her life and wanting and the needs and desires of other people. I've been thinking a lot about that lately. I got people close to me, very close to me, my incredible girlfriend being one of them, that often remind me that my commands, desires, requests from other people are at times ludicrous. And that doesn't come from a bad space. That just comes from us. That comes from people be peopling. Me just being 100% Sebastian, not saying that's right at all. It's wrong more times than not. But it comes from a space of, I think it's right. That doesn't make it right, but I think it's right. So friends, let me ask you today, what's available by just letting the people that you know, love, and care about that are in your life, that you do life with, maybe you do work with, maybe you don't even know, strangers? What does it look like to just let them do whatever it is that they want to do? The let them theory isn't passive. It's quite powerful. It's quite the opposite. It's powerful. You know what's exhausting? Attempting to control. Notice I said attempting, because it's an illusion. It doesn't even exist. We try really hard, though. We try really hard to cling on. I got this. I can hover over this area and infuse my unrequested, unsolicited opinion into this, and it's going to change something, and it doesn't. But control is exhausting. You know where there's freedom? There's freedom in letting go. And that, my friends, well, that's where the rubber meets the road. That whole letting go. What does it look like to let go? Let go of what seems to be running the show in our heads. Here's what I've started to notice personally. When I started applying this, and I fail more times than not, notice I fail more times than not, but I am trying my best on a daily basis to see how this plays out in my life. I love the horn in my car. I love being right with complete strangers. So unproductive. You know why? Because I remember my daughter was little. It's been going on a long time. It's not road rage. It's an obsession with my horn. Okay, maybe a little bit of road rage back in the day because I was honking at somebody or I don't know what I said. And my daughter was like 6 or 7 at the time. She looks over at me and she goes, "Hey, Dad, do you know that they can't hear you?" And I just had to laugh because I didn't even think about that. I just want to be right about a stranger cutting me off or walking across the street when the light was green and there's no crosswalk. And what are you thinking? And rah, 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 rah. I hope some of you are feeling heard out there and seen. I'm using myself as the gleaming example here. But when I started to apply the let them theory in my life, I create margin. I create space in between what I can influence. Notice the difference here. I create space in between what I can influence and what I cannot. And if I weigh out the options as far as payoffs are concerned, personal gratification payoffs, and I got to say, wait a second. What I can't influence, what I can influence. What I can influence is going to outweigh that all day long because I'm committed to impact and influence. I'm not committed to the things that I cannot do, that I know that I cannot do, i.e. change people's perspective, have them show up a certain way, have them return a phone call, have them think a certain way, have them do a certain thing. I cannot do those things. Only they can. But I can influence them. And influencing them does not mean verbally vomiting my unsolicited opinion on what they're currently doing. I believe the best way to influence someone and impact someone is to love them through the process and live your life how you would like to see others show up. Love, compassion, integrity, impact, influence. That creates a margin between reaction and peace. Margin, space between reaction and peace. You really got to ask yourself, what do I want to do here? Do I want to be right? I want to be at peace. A lot of you might be like, both. Been there. Between chaos and clarity. If you want chaos, well, you may want to be with that for a minute. If you want peace, which I believe most of us do, letting them does not mean that you don't care. It means you care about the right things. Let me say that again. Letting them doesn't mean you don't care. It just means you care about the right things. I love that. So some hidden wins within this book. Again, I'm going through this book again. My good friend Carrie Howe was in town from Costa Rica this week, and we were in conversation over breakfast, and he mentioned, you just got to let them. And I said, oh, I'm letting them most days. And I said, great book. He said, yeah, it was. It's become my constant reference point when I don't want to let them. In fact, I've read it a couple times. I'm going to read it again. Heard a quote from Bob Proctor this week. I'm reading his book, Change Your Paradigm, Change Your Life. And he was quoted once saying, and I'm paraphrasing right now because I'll probably mangle it, but when you read a book a second or third time, you don't discover what you missed the first time around. You discover what's missing in you. So I thought, hot damn. As he shared this, he also shared that he's been reading Think and Grow Rich every single day for 63 years. Same book over and over and over and over again. And that's where that quote was extracted from, the idea of that. Here's the twist that Mel didn't spell out. Or maybe she did and I was not ADD brained out, or look, squirrel was at a park. When we let them, we let ourselves. We stop forcing outcomes. We stop rewriting other people's stories. And that frees us up to live our lives. Maybe I misread that when I said Mel didn't spell it out. She did spell that out, but she didn't have to drive the point home because all of that makes sense. When we let them, we let ourselves, and we stop forcing outcomes. We stop rewriting other people's stories, and that frees us up to live our own. The moment you stop trying to fix, convince, or prove, you suddenly have more time and way less trauma. More time, less trauma. Raise your hand if that sounds like something that tickles your fancy. All right, here's the challenge. This is for myself too, so we're all doing it together. This idea sounds really easy. It is not. It is not. Then again, what is? Why is this not easy? Well, it hits our ego exactly where it hurts. Bingo. Bullseye. Our ego wants to be right, wants to fix it, wants to control it. But peace isn't about being right. It's about being free. So, the next time something doesn't go your way, and it will, or someone doesn't act the way you think they should, and they will, say it quietly to yourself. Let them. Let them. Then I want you to watch what happens inside of you. Mel talks a lot about this in the book. The impact that it has on us when we let them, and then we let you. Let me. Let them, let me. I'm excited to hear what this little challenge does for you. I'm on the challenge with you. So yeah, maybe the real message here isn't let them. It's let yourself. Let yourself stop chasing people's approval. Let yourself rest in what you know is right for you. Now, full disclosure, I'm still unpacking my biggest takeaway from all of this. That's why I probably need to start reading the book again this week. But that's where I'm at today. I'd love to know what you think. Drop your comments below. Wherever you're watching, maybe you're watching the live stream, maybe you're listening to the Beyond the Story audio podcast version. Maybe you're watching a clip. Send me a DM on Instagram at Podcast Suck. That's podcast plural, 2 S's. Shoot me a DM and let me know. Find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever else you hang out. I'd love to know. I'd love to hear your feedback. But more importantly, I appreciate you for tuning in and listening to me babble about what's worked and what hasn't worked with me reading the Let Them theory as I continue to unpack this and implement it and integrate it into my life. I think it's an everyday thing. It's not a sometimes thing. It's not a someday thing. But I believe I'm already a better person because I read the book. I believe I'm already a better person because I've taken opportunities where I have let them and I didn't want to. May this episode encourage you, and may you get out there and let them. As soon as you hit stop on this episode, I believe that the Let Them theory starts right now. Until next time, friends.